This episode is for the writer who is nervous about taking their writing seriously. You want to, but you're not quite sure what that is supposed to look like, especially because you're not a career author or full-time writer. My intention in this episode is to show you that if you have the desire to write a memoir, then the universe is actually asking you to write your memoir. So yes, the title of this episode is a little provocative, but you'll see what I'm playing with when we get into the meat of the episode. Let's get started. You are listening to the Memoir Method podcast, the place for writers, readers, and anyone who appreciates the collective power of our stories. In this podcast, we explore the impact of memoir alongside an examination of writing techniques and strategies used in the genre. Whether you are a writer looking for inspiration and guidance or a passionate reader seeking meaningful connections through shared experiences, the Memoir Method podcast is your go-to conversation spot. I'm your host, Charlotte, editor, writer, and the heart behind Charlotte Writes. Let's get started. Whenever I meet a potential new client, whether that's in my DMs, in my email inbox, or in a free discovery call, I often will feel something like, I'm not really a writer, but. My intake form for discovery calls used to include a magic wand question. If I had a magic wand and could solve any problem for you, what would it be? Overwhelmingly, writers chose validate my identity as a writer. I cannot tell you the number of times I have heard writers express to me, I'm just not sure that anyone would care about this. This episode is for you if you have thought or needed any one of those things, because the people who shouldn't write a memoir aren't the people that you might be thinking of. I know that you may be someone who has questioned this path for you because you don't feel like you are the kind of person who does this. And I hope that this episode flips that for you and helps you see creative work and memoir writing, especially, in a different way. You might be thinking that my list of people who shouldn't write memoirs would include people who aren't famous, people who haven't had anything dramatic happen to them, or people who are under 50. You're going to be surprised though. And if I've done my job well in this episode, you will leave this time more empowered as a writer and a storyteller, and with a different perspective on who you are and who you are meant to be as a writer yourself. So, 3 people who shouldn't write a memoir. The first one is very simple. Someone who doesn't want to. If you don't want to write a memoir, then you shouldn't. I believe that every desire placed on your heart is one placed by God, the universe, whatever higher power you believe in. And so if you're here listening to this episode, then I'm going to assume that you want to write a memoir. And if you want to, then you are already qualified to write it. I know that sounds bold. I mean every part of that. If you want to, then you are already qualified to. And you will be presented with the opportunities, the means, the ability to write what you are meant to write. You might be listening to this episode because someone in your life looked at what you've lived through and has said at some point, whoa, you should write a memoir. But the more you think about it, the more you realize that you don't actually want to do that. You're not interested in writing about your life. If that's you, then I'm giving you permission to not want this. Don't write something you don't actually want to write. Writing a book, whether it's a novel or a memoir or a self-help book, it takes time, commitment, and a rock-solid mindset to execute. Traditional publication is not guaranteed. You will be required to be a writer, an author, an editor, and yes, even an entrepreneur as you work your way through the publishing pipeline. You have to want this more than anyone else wants it. You will have continual calibration opportunities to decide, yes, this is what I want. I'm willing to do the work because this is what I want. One of the writers I'm working with right now to self-publish her memoir this fall, she was talking to me last year as we were wrapping up developmental work. And she said, I finished my first draft and I thought that was the hard part. And then she starts revising and she thought that was the hard part. And now she's working through building an author platform and getting her book ready to self-publish. And then she's like, and I think that's the hard part. It will always be shifting. You will continually be challenged in this process, regardless of how you publish. And so you have to want to do it. If you're on the fence and you don't really want this, that's okay. God intends different and equally fulfilling things for you. So don't stress about not wanting something that you think you're supposed to want, but you don't. Just because you can write or you have a crazy story doesn't mean that you have to write a memoir. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So only write a memoir if you really, truly want to. Yes, that desire comes from God. And yes, if you desire it, then you can do it. And if you don't desire it, then pour out your energy into something that you actually want to do instead. So that's person number one who shouldn't write a memoir if they don't want to. The people who don't want to do it, I will lovingly open the door for you and you can go find something else that is life-giving to you. Because if memoir writing isn't it, then don't do it. You don't have to. Person number two who shouldn't write a memoir. Someone who doesn't want to connect with a reader. Occasionally, I will ask a memoir writer, a new client, who they're writing for, and they'll look at me like a deer in headlights because they haven't actually thought about it. Especially if you've never worked with an editor or gone through a writing program, the concept of an ideal reader might be new to you, and your gut instinct might be to say, well, I want anyone who will read it to read it. I'm writing this for everyone. That is going to work against you more than you realize. I think it's Seth Godin who said, if you try to write for everyone, you will write for no one. You'll be bland, generic. No one will want to read it if you're thinking just you want anyone to do it. I want you to get specific. This is deep work that requires contemplation and specificity. So I'm going to make a business corollary. When I was first starting out this business, I knew how to edit. But if I wanted to do my job as an editor, the job I knew I was already good at, I had to learn how to be an entrepreneur. And that's a totally different job. I enrolled in a business program that taught me the concept of an ideal client. And I realized that I didn't just want to work with anyone. I didn't want to work with someone I'd have to drag along the process. I didn't want to work with someone who was resistant to feedback. I wanted to support writers that I connected with, who were willing to put in the work, who would take my input seriously while also leading themselves, who cared about their stories and their writing, and who were committed to the process. Your job as an author is very similar to mine as an entrepreneur. An author is someone who writes for a reader. And if you are unclear about who that reader is, or you don't even want to think about the reader because it feels like it's not real writing work, then memoir writing is not the right thing for you. Writing a memoir requires you to consider who will be reading your work, who you want to read your story, why your story is relevant to them. Your book isn't going to be relevant to everybody. Not everyone's going to like it. Not everyone's going to think that your story is compelling or interesting or that you have something to say. That's just how the world is, and that's fine. You don't want everyone to love your memoir or read it. You want the right person to love your memoir and to read it. You want the right person to resonate with it. You want to impact the lives of the right people, not just everybody. If you aren't interested in doing that work, maybe your memoir would be better suited to a personal history or an autobiography if you really want to write about what happened to you. But memoir writers, especially the ones that I'm interested in working with, are the ones who are willing to do this deep contemplative work and then use it to inform what they actually write. Person number three, who shouldn't write a memoir, is someone who needs success before they'll feel that their story is valid. We think about success backwards, and not just in writing. You think that you'll feel like a writer when something outside of you happens. You get to that one number of Substack subscribers. You sign with a literary agent. You have a launch date. But it doesn't work that way. If you're going to find success as a writer and author, you have to do whatever it takes to cultivate that feeling of success before it arrives, that feeling of connection, that feeling of momentum. If you are waiting for something or someone to validate your story or to take you seriously as a writer, then you will continue circling that self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and comparison failure. You have to be the one to cheer the loudest for yourself long before you ever reach those arbitrary success milestones. A couple of years ago, I started a Substack page. It was off and on for a bit. It didn't really have a focus. It was fine for a little bit. And then I kind of let it go. I didn't really do anything with it for a little bit. And then a little less than a year ago, I decided to take that space seriously. I rebranded and I have more of a focus for the types of things I write about over there. And I started publishing. I cross-posted this to Instagram. I talked about my work online to whatever existing audiences I had. And I took my writing seriously before the subscribers came in. When I first started, most of my subscribers were friends and family, which is great, but I wanted impact and reach beyond my friends and family. What happened is that the more I published, the more subscribers flowed in. The more I talked about what I was actually doing, who I was inviting into the conversation with me, the more people came. They self-selected into this conversation online. I took another unintentional writing break from Substack late last year. I posted a couple times between last fall and this spring, not very often though. But as soon as I recommitted again to my writing and took this vocation seriously again, the subscribers started flowing in again. Every day now, I get new followers and subscribers on that platform. But it wouldn't have happened if I needed the subscribers to validate my work and my ideas. I knew that the ideas I am talking about on that space are valuable. I know that there are people who are hungry for those conversations. I know that I have a perspective and a way of thinking that is unique to that online space. And I led with that energy. And people come in every single day into my space, reading what I'm writing, without me doing anything besides publishing a few times a month. I needed to validate my ideas myself before anyone else could. And then the success is flowing in. This is your biggest ask as a creative writer. You have to take yourself seriously because no one else will if you don't. The writers who continue to look to me as an editor or a subscriber count, some random milestone to give them permission to do what they want to do, shouldn't get into this work. It will be exhausting, it will be discouraging, it will be frustrating, and you will consistently feel like a failure. If that is your metric for thinking the way that you conceptualize success, if it's external from you, then you're going to be miserable in this process. You will be miserable. Don't do it. Creative work takes continual mindset refinement in addition to continual process refinement. Being a writer is a full identity. It's not just a hobby. I talked about that last week. And if you are looking for external validation more than you're willing to take yourself seriously, then you are in the wrong line of work. Do something else. But if you want to take yourself seriously, you have to change your mindset, change the metrics of success for you, and start to cultivate those feelings of success and momentum and impact in your energy right now. And that's going to expand out and attract the right people. Stop chasing likes. Start cultivating your own creative process. So I'm going to recap again the 3 people who should never write a memoir. Those who don't want to. If you don't want to, don't waste your time. Go do something that's fun for you. 2, those who don't care about writing for a reader. If you are unwilling to do the work to understand the person on the other side of the page and what they need from you, if that contemplation is not something that you are interested in doing, don't write a memoir. And finally, those who rely on external validation to feel good about their writing. If you need someone else to validate your talent, your ideas, your story, and you always need that validation, then you need to do some inner work before you're able to successfully write a memoir and have a good experience with it. I don't want you to be miserable. I don't want my clients to be miserable. I want you to feel empowered. I want you to feel alive. I want you to feel in alignment with what you're doing. But that can only come from you. I'm happy to be a cheerleader. I'm good at it, but I can't drag you across the finish line. I can't cheerlead you enough to make you feel in alignment with what you're doing. You are the one who gets to cultivate that. So each of these writers is very difficult to support from an editorial standpoint. I have worked with writers who actually fit each of these profiles. They're hard. They're hard to support on my end. My clients with the most success are the ones who are committed to the process, open to feedback and refinement, honest with their story, and willing to take themselves more seriously than anyone else. These are the people that I want in my spaces, in my one-on-one containers, in my Memoir Method cohorts, in my DMs, and in my Zoom room. If you're feeling shaky on any of these, if you are listening and you're kind of cringing because you're like, oh, I think that's me. I think that I'm that kind of person, but you still want to do this, A good place to start building that solid creative foundation is inside of the Writer's Workshop. This is a 3-part workshop series where we look at that mindset piece alongside the other elements that tap you into what you're meant to write and how you were able to write it. And if you want to take this work even deeper, I hope that you will consider joining me in the fall cohort of the Memoir Method. So go ahead and join the waitlist. Doors open in August for that space. If you don't want to wait that long to start the Memoir Method process, I do have some openings for VIP Memoir Method work, and that's executed on a more condensed timeline, a completely private one-on-one container. If you're interested in that, email me at hello@bookishedits.com and we can talk about it. You can also slide into my DMs on Instagram. I'm at the.memoir.coach, and we can talk about what one-on-one containers would be a good fit for you. When I work with writers, I go deep. I move quickly, and I hold you to a high standard in both your mindset and your actual work. More than anything in this episode, I want you to leave this time feeling like you can take seriously your desires to write and publish. You can learn to write. You can learn to refine. You do have a story that people want to read. I am here to support you in the trenches of this process and show you easier, better, and more aligned ways to move through the creative and publishing pathways. That's what I love to do, and I love working with writers who are here for the work. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back in your ears next week. You've just listened to an episode of the Memoir Method podcast. The Memoir Method podcast is presented by Charlotte Writes. If you liked what you heard, the best way to support the show is to subscribe through your preferred podcast player. And if you're feeling especially inspired, I'd love it if you left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leaving a review really does help other readers and writers like yourself find the show. If you want to continue the conversation, you can find me on my website at charlottewrites.co or on Instagram at charlottejanewrites. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. And remember that you have a story that matters.